Okay, so just to give you a short brief, my name is Dr. Sanyogita Chadha. I'm from India, and my partner is Neha Dhimri, who is based out of the US. So we both are fashion from the fashion field, very interested in artificial intelligence as a subject. And we both, I mean, so I work with an artificial intelligence company as an advisory board member. And so been really involved in how AI can be used to reduce timelines in the fashion industry. So this is a company called Stylumia with whom I work, and I'm going to present what we did with that. If you can hear me, please let me know. I'm not sure whether I'm audible or not.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you. Okay, so just as an introduction, I think the fashion industry and the supply chain are really notorious and complex, and I think a large amount of our fashion items make it to landfill. I think a lot of this from the fashion industry, and especially in the Indian context or even international context, is because we plan something and the forecast is something, and what sells off the shelves is not exactly as per plan. Having said that, with the changing fashion seasons, with the new trends that we get to see, I think assortment planning has become a challenge for most brands. But technology has transformed how businesses get done across the globe. And I think the fashion industry today is estimated at 3,000 billion US dollars. One of the impacts of the technology has come in manufacturing, and it's been evolving steadily as we go. The idea, I think, of most fashion businesses is to be agile and to adapt and adopt technology so that we kind of become more sustainable and we can produce less waste. Having said that, there are brands out of China which use large scale automated test and reorder to actually make their e-commerce business more sustainable. They're using data driven business to trend forecast in the supply chain and in production. But having said all of this, our landfills are still filling annually, and we are disposing 12.8 million tons of clothing every year, which is a huge amount of clothing by any standards. Consumer preferences are changing. There are life influences, micro life influences. Some products stay on the shelf for a shorter time, some for a longer time. It's getting really difficult for businesses to start predicting demand accurately. I think all fashion items have some attributes, and these semantic attributes like color or the sleeve or the neckline are what make a person buy a particular product or not. Now, there are so many attributes, and given the fact that the entire fashion business is so vulnerable and is so susceptible to so many changes, the process is really, really complex. Now, everything in fashion is visual. So anybody who's in the fashion business, well, fashion is a visual thing. And I think customers get impacted by this. So they pick stuff that they really like. I mean, while the product may be amazing, they don't like the neckline, they don't pick it. Or they like pink color, but the tone of pink is not what they like. They do not pick it. So I think the cycle of a product in the fashion business is changing. It is fluctuating. Consumers have an amount of choice. And I think all the unsold product is what we are trying to address today by saying, can we actually have a forecast system that gets people to produce what is needed? So I think demand forecasting is what all operations teams actually use. It is an input for planning activities. Demand forecasting is challenging because you're talking about long replenishment lead times, talking about shorter selling cycles. And while the demand has become unpredictable, I think more and more companies are moving to making their supply chain more robust. So if you look at brands like Zara and H&M, they have really, really short lead times. They have about 20 seasons in a year. And I think the success of Zara was their supply chain performance and the fact that they were forecasting demand ahead of the supply. Now, features of demand are obviously high pulse purchasing, high volatility, low predictability, large product variety and variance. And traditional forecasting methods did not really work well with this intermittent, erratic demand. Just one second. So AI, as we go, is becoming an integral part of technology in the apparel industry, and most brands, especially in India, are spending a lot of their annual budget on technology. So globally, it has nearly quadrupled from $2 billion in 2018 to over $7.3 billion in 2022. But having said that, with artificial intelligence becoming stronger all over the world, I think many industries are looking at AI now to help them managing with AI tools to help them manage their forecasting. Now, if I just look at the Indian scenario, artificial intelligence has been in from a few years, but it's only today that many brands are looking at it seriously and taking its help. So, artificial intelligence is a tool to achieve the purpose about speed, whether it's through automation, deeper insights. People are building algorithms, they're planning, and they're forecasting. So, the idea is that we reduce our waste. Now, the entire industry has shifted from an entirely exclusive to an inclusive form of fashion. We have the internet, we have Instagram, we have influencers. People are expressing their opinions by talking about their fashion likes, dislikes, brands they like, dislike, everything on social media. And I think influencers are a big part of what people are following. Now, 100 million images and 400 million stories are shared every day on Instagram alone. And this actually impacts of the consumer who's coming to buy. So you have a lot of people who look at Instagram posts and decide what they would like to buy. Especially the younger lot of consumers, I'm talking India centric, obviously, they're really looking at Instagram heroes and buying what they would like to buy. Now, while all this is happening in the space of social media, it is since it's impacting consumers who are buying our products, it's really important that we look at this as an integral part in the trend forecasting that we are planning to do for the businesses. Um, Consumption rate of clothing and fashion items have skyrocketed, become more agile, and more brands are depending on artificial intelligence to understand what consumers are demanding, to understand what should be produced. And I think because AI is being used at different parts of the supply chain, it's getting more and more important that the technology brings everything together. So one of the largest forecasting services in fashion and retail actually created a trend curve plus tools to help businesses de-risk the specific product categories. And they were able to establish a correlation between data and culture across cross sections of business functions, creating an accurate account of consumer demand. So I think they did a study on sleeves and they came up with what kind of sleeves are being liked by certain consumers in a certain part of the world. Fashion is a 1.7 trillion value industry, and 30% of these are never sold. And this is a loss that we actually have because of inventory in our businesses, 210 billion per year. Now, the idea of a reliable forecasting system is to achieve competitive advantage by minimizing supply chain costs, avoiding shortages, and minimizing financial loss due to unsold items. So, in the mid last decade, the hybrid method of forecasting was being used, which is statistical, combining along with artificial intelligence to kind of gauge what is the demand. Now, most of the forecasts that we look at, trend forecasts, to design and produce products that appeal to a target customer, is to drive the sales and to reduce industry. The earlier conventional trend forecasting systems are subject to a lot of criticism as people felt that designers were relying more on creative vision and often omitting to take commercial viewpoint into account. Now, with the digitization of most businesses, a lot of fashion information, big data has emerged, which has kind of fueled the shortcomings of the traditional method of forecasting. And many companies are now looking at different methods of looking at the way fashion forecasting is being done. Alibaba adopted artificial-based intelligence for trend for technology from 2018, and they had smart tags, they had intelligent mirrors, blue chips embedded within every product. And Shein, one of those companies, actually looked at large-scale automated test and reorder systems, and they did really well. In 2008, Shein, with a current valuation of 100 billion USD, became a phenomena in the fashion industry, dominating markets in the US and UK with market share. So world over, while the sell-throughs remain full price sell-throughs at 50% of the mark, I think companies like Stylumia have come in to come and look at forecasting technology to help us improve our correct mix. So the methodology we used for this paper was a combination of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we use the proprietary tools for demand sensing and consumer intelligence. And I'll touch upon each of these as I go. The research is based on actual brands that have been worked upon and actual data which has been got from these brands. The company operates with more than 500 plus brands globally and from the e-commerce websites and social media and runaway. And one of the tools that Stylumia uses is demand sensing rather than demand forecasting. So when I say demand sensing, I mean that they're looking at what is happening right now in terms of demand. It is very short term, and a forecast is predictably for future events, whereas forecasting is for current events. So while we're not looking at what's going to happen, say, a year in advance, looking at what is selling through right now to help people plan their product, plan their what they would like to make. So demand sensing is a forecasting method that leverages new techniques, which is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and real-time capturing of data to have an accurate forecast of demand. They also augment human intelligence for fashion in the better world. Current forecasting methods do not solve the fundamental challenge of fashion trend spotting and trend forecasting. So our consumer intelligence tool, which is CIT, helps brands zero in on consumer demand and product mix right down to product attributes, which are like color. So if it's not just a color, it is the tone of color. And a consumer intelligence tool analyzes the consumer demand data using AI powered demand sensing algorithm, which is available to consumers. And more often, it tells you what is selling and what is not selling, even at a product and color level. So all this data is gathered and is ranked by the Stylumia proprietary demand sensing tool. What's happening? 1 minute. Yeah. So what it does is it looks at millions of demand signals per product. It analyzes and decodes the consumer preferences, or it tells you what is high on demand, therefore understanding what are the current trends from a consumer lens. And it maps out product introductions. It talks about pricing, discount movements, market positioning, product attributes, and so on and so forth. Now, using the CIT, you can immediately determine what is the consumer behavior across markets, across geographies, across fashion retailers, across brands and categories, across styles and colors. And this is enabled by the demand sensing engine. These are proprietary tools which are proprietary of Stylumia. Now, the true demand AI engine takes into account all of this that is happening at a macro and a micro level, and it's able to instantly validate trends and gives a competitive edge to increase speed to market development. Now, this data is collected from websites, social media handles, and other sources, and is collected across marketplace sites of brands and retailers. These trends are identified into 5 buckets. The first one is emerging trends that have seen a sudden uptake over the past few weeks and may take off over a period of time. Seasonal trends that are showing growth season on season and appear to be strong bets. Mainstream trends, which are core volume styles that are steady performers. Late mainstream trends that are showing signs of stagnation. And laggards that are trends that are just fading out. They're basically dead to the mainstream trends. We also have an inbuilt system of product attribute extraction capabilities, including color extraction. And one of the things that Stylumia's strategic collaboration with Pantone helps is to look at colors at a tone level, not just at a color level, at a tone level. So macro trends have been categorized and generalized because macro trends are trends that could have different names and meanings to different people. So while bling means something to me, it might mean something to somebody else. But the idea is to make sure that everybody understands the word the way it is supposed to be. And nano spotting trends are those that are supported with consumer demand in evidence. Trending colors are also matched with the Pantone shades so that the exact shade can be used if that particular color is trending. One example, and this is actually what has been done with Bestseller, which is a Danish clothing company. They have many brands like Vero Moda, which is a premium brand for stylish young women. They wanted to identify a color for yellow. They felt yellow was really liked by people, and the consumer preference talked about yellow. So they looked at the season and saw 15 to 20% increase in sales when Stylumia's research gave them the correct tone of yellow. Similarly, in 2018, when Jack and Jones is working on new trends, they identified a checkerboard pattern as an emerging trend on the consumer intelligence tool, and this collection was one of their top performers. Vero Moda also was unable to decide whether to launch a bold snake print for summer or not, and I think the data that was valid, what was given to them by Stylumia, helped them validate the potential of the trend. Stylumia also helped in identifying the trend of long line t-shirts, which performed 60% better than other products in the same season. A bigger case study is at a micro level. I'm going to just walk you through this. Pre-pandemic saw a lot of Y2K trends like claw clips, scrunchies, mini skirts, etc., which made a comeback. And Juicy Couture worked with vitamins to actually come up with velour tracksuits with iconic rhinestones of Juicy embellished on them. But during the pandemic in 2020, people's needs changed and they picked up utility and comfort in their clothing preferences. But across spring, summer, and fall, winter of 2021, shows were showcased which showed Miu Miu, Saint Laurent, Versace, Michael Kors, and even Chanel offer shorter pieces from jackets to skirts. Basically, an overall shrunken silhouettes made their way to runaway collections. So Salumia looked at the trend of micro category of mini skirts over autumn and winter across the years 2020 and 2021 across the brands in USA, UK, and the EU in two segments, to luxury and fast fashion. Now, while their bets were placed differentially across the two seasons, the interesting trend was that the consumers actually picked only a portion of the selection. And this was reflected in the demand trend that was lower than the supply trend by almost half. Now, when this happened, the magnitude of the difference over supply and demand across two seasons was analyzed. When the supply dropped by 45%, demand dropped by 82% in the luxury segment from autumn 20 through autumn 21. In the fast fashion segment, the supply went up by 77%, while demand went up by 133%. Now, the demand information came out of analyzing the top percentile movements of products that were launched. Now, while the supply dropped by 21%, demand dropped by 33% in luxury segment. In the fast fashion category, supply dropped by 10%, while demand dropped by 20%. This was the first step that trend spotting using consumer lens by removing the noise which surrounds what is selling and what is to be supplied or what is the demand was done. And the next step was going to the nano level to understand what kind of mini skirts were actually appreciated by the consumers and what was not appreciated by the consumers. So a mixed product was picked out from both the luxury segment and from the non-luxury segment to understand what was trending to an actual color, style, brand, what was it that the consumers were actually picking up. Just to conclude, artificial intelligence has been used in analyzing fashion trends and consumer needs for over a decade, and its impact on style and the enhancement of phenomena as fast fashion is indisputable. Now, the clothing industry is in 4.0 of digitalization, as it increasingly relying on the use of advanced technology moving towards version 5.0. Now, the use of artificial intelligence in the broader scope of activities, along with sustainability, are many of the issues that are raised by the application of artificial intelligence. The idea in this world of uncertainties is not only to catch the trends, but to catch the right trends, to catch a trend at a micro level, because only if you get to the micro level are you going to produce merchandise that is actually going to sell through on the shelf, probably reducing error by almost 50%. I think the biggest a side effect of getting your trend correct is also the sustainability, which is coming through by reducing the waste due to not producing products that the consumers are not going to buy. Given Stylumia's examples and given the experience that Stylumia has had with many of its brands using the consumer intelligence tools, um, it is showing a 10 times faster than the speed of current trend research methodologies. A lot of work goes into analyzing the brands that are on the website that Stylumia works with. A lot of it goes to browsing the web and picking up signals as to what is a consumer actually buying, whether it is color, silhouette, a print, a pattern, a fabric. It picks up all of that. And once you can get insights on the consumers, the target consumers' purchasing preferences and the key touch points, it's easier to focus on that and get back to the brand. So while Stylumia is being used by many brands, Stylumia itself works with brands to come up with trends, whether it is their competition brands, whether it is brands they're benchmarking themselves against. They actually work with them really closely and share at an SKU level what is it that the market is looking at. And I think that is it for now. And these are all my references. Thank you.